Hello, my name is Kelsey Olson, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Deputy Secretary of the Kansas Department of Agriculture. Welcome to the 6th Annual Kansas Summit on Agricultural Growth. I appreciate you taking your evening and spending this time with us to discuss meat processing sector and as we work to grow the agriculture industry in our state. Although this year's Agricultural Growth Summit has been moved virtually in its entirety, we've again decided to host our sectors online in advance in hopes to allow for more participation from people across the state. After all, it's your involvement and your participation that is key to the success of this event and key to the growth in the Kansas agricultural industry. The strength of the Kansas agriculture comes from your hard work, dedication, and leadership, all of which has made its state's largest industry and economic driver. The purpose of the summit is to provide strategic growth in the industry, and that requires communication, coordination, and most certainly collaboration. Thanks again for taking your time this evening to join us and to be a part of the meat processing session. I'll now turn this webinar over to Janelle Dobbins.
Thank you, Deputy Secretary Olson. I'm Janelle Dobbins with the Kansas Department of Agriculture's Division of Ag Marketing. We're so glad you've chosen to spend some hours with us tonight. Hopefully everyone is either in air conditioning or has a fan going on them, as we're in some pretty high heat indexes right now. But for the next hour, we're going to talk about the meat processing sector. It's such an important part of the agriculture in our state, and we're excited to talk about it tonight. Because of knowing how important it was, we were able to get nearly $12 million of CARES Act funding that was earmarked for securing local food grant system program earlier this year. The grant funds were used by local recipients for a wide scope of capital expenses like expansion or rental of buildings, facilities, or equipment, technology that improves business resilience, facility reconfiguration to meet social distancing guidelines, or costs associated with sanitation or worker safety, and many other options. We had a total of 257 grants offered to food and agricultural businesses and individuals in 80 of the counties. We had 55 slaughter and processing facilities get a total of $4.5 million, 33 dairy, food, and meat processing facilities get $1.7 million total, and 79 direct consumer producers, growers, vendors received $2.9 million, and many of those were adding or adapting meat processing capabilities. So what did the meat processing companies do with the grants? There was a wide variety of changes to allow for increased capacity, including things like renovating their facilities to add more cold storage capacity, purchasing additional equipment, generators, freezers, saws, and slicers, expanding staffing to process higher numbers, adding a mobile processing unit, or adapting business to be state licensed for commercial sale. The vision of our agency is to provide an ideal environment for long-term sustainable agricultural prosperity and statewide economic growth. Our summit sector sessions provide the platform to entertain opportunities and barriers to agricultural industry growth for our state. So many of you may be Zoom experts, many of you may not, but I just wanted to review a couple of options tonight we're going to have. As you came on, you may have noticed that we had everyone muted. However, feel free to unmute yourself at the end of any of the speakers if you want to ask your questions live, or you also do have the option to enter any questions while we're talking in the chat box. Also, we are being recorded tonight and it will be posted online later. And if you do ask a question, if you can just give us your name, let us know where you are in the state and what organization or meat processing plant or anything that you're with to help us be able to answer those questions, we would appreciate it. And we will be doing a few polls this evening. So if you are not familiar with those in Zoom, I just want to let you know when I say there's going to be a poll, a box will pop up and you can just click on the circle to the left of where you want to answer and then hit a submit button that will be down at the bottom, and that will capture your vote. And so actually after that, we're going to do our very first poll of the evening, which is going to be about federal inspection. So that poll will be popping up here, and it will be saying, if the stipulation was that you would need to be under federal inspection to receive available grant funds, would you be willing to pursue federal inspections? Yes, absolutely. Possibly I would like for the information, or no, I'd prefer to stay under state inspection. So I'm going to give everyone here probably about 35 seconds to answer. And if anyone's having issues with doing the poll, if you can figure out how to unmute and let us know, we can also help you on that. Okay, I'm going to give you about 15 seconds more here. Okay, it looks like we had 70% say yes, absolutely, and 30% say possibly I would like more information on the criteria. So excellent, thanks. You all did well in being able to do that first poll of the night. So now I would like to introduce Dylan Tweedy, president of the Kansas Meat Processing Association. Dylan's gonna give us some information, so thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. And Dylan, we've got to get you off. You're on mute.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes, you're good to go now.
Well, I'm not sure what y'all want me to say. The only thing I can say is I think everybody would agree that last year was crazy for meat processors. The grants and everything, I think that everybody got were very well appreciated. We struggled, not with employees, so to speak, because we have a great staff. But as far as space, we're kind of landlocked where we're at. The people that own the ground next to us all around are not willing to sell anything, so we couldn't expand there. We did get a new 20 by 30 freezer or cooler and a 10 by 15 walk-in freezer. We built a 60 by 120 shop out at our house. And that way we could do all of our deer and all of our custom work out here. But then, just like everybody, COVID's played a struggle with the wood prices are outrageous. It's not just the meat processors or anybody else. Everybody is in a crazy spin cycle of what do we do? So the guy that's supposed to be putting up our rail system, he's been on hold because the price of steel is high. We finally got him cut loose to get some steel to get our rail system up. His dad died. So we are, it's been just an ongoing thing, and I'm sure everybody else can agree with that. As far as the numbers and the people that 90% of the people that we've had to work with, government included, have been great. We have, oh my God, we will probably never have a year that we had last year, because probably half my crew will quit. it was so crazy. I don't know what else you guys want me to say. It has been very eye-opening, I would say, to probably everyone to go through what we all had to go through as far as the regulations and everything, kind of the stuff that changed and kind of the stuff they leaned on against you. But overall, I mean, with the grants and everything, everybody helping everybody out was amazing. I mean, I can't thank you people enough that you guys did that, because a lot of people needed it. A lot of people need to expand. A lot of people want to know where their meat's coming from. And I think that's a good thing.
Thanks, Dylan. We appreciate those accolades, but you know, tonight is definitely, and we know we have lots of processors and wholesalers and everything on the call. We want to hear, you know, what you guys are still needing and make sure we know the needs of the industry. So as we have possible opportunities come up, we can convey that back to other entities such as USDA, et cetera.
Sure. I mean, I know that we could use a couple new machines. I know that a lot of plants are hurting for help. And expansion is the biggest thing, I would say. I mean, a lot of people could be twice the size that they are now, and they don't have the money, or they don't have the means to get it done. I don't know. It's a lot to take in, I can tell you that. And there's a lot of things that people could benefit from on, like I said, new equipment, expansion, new coolers, new freezers. I mean, workers, I mean, it's the number one thing, I think. Because, I mean, hardly anybody wants to do that anymore. I mean, that's sad to say, and I'm not trying to be rude, but I mean, nobody wants to do that anymore. It has definitely helped us out a lot, and I think that's what the main focus would be. And I mean, and more people involved. The more people involved, I think the better off it is, because everybody has a different opinion and everybody has a different voice on what they believe and what they think. And I think that the more people that we have that can, you know, speak on what everybody's going through would help greatly.
Excellent. Well, you kind of queued up here what was going to be another poll question for us as you were talking about kind of grant funding. So our number 2 poll coming up is going to be, if you receive grant funding, how would the money be spent? And we do have an other, which, so all of you understand that. If you can just share in the chat box, because I'm sure there's going to be plenty of other options than just the 3 we gave of expanding on current business, building a new facility, or updating current equipment. And I'm going to give you here about 30 seconds to answer this. And yep, I need all 3 may easily also be an option, I am sure. Because as Dylan was saying, we are well aware that this it's now getting to be over a year, has been definitely taxing on everyone as they've been trying to find workforce, find the funds. We've definitely heard folks may want to expand, but they may have things such as they may not have the space to expand, et cetera. And so that's what we're wanting to make sure that we're capturing tonight, is all of those thoughts like that. So as we might have options coming up. So it looks like here, I actually gave you a bit more than 30 seconds. So we will read the poll results here. So we have 64% saying expanding on current business, and then 18% on the other, which I think most of those other ones were saying all 3, as I was trying to quickly read them. And then the other 2 were tied at 9% of the building a new facility and updating current equipment. So Dylan, did you have anything else you wanted to provide at this point? If not, I know you're going to be on with us and be part of the open dialogue discussion and stuff too.
I don't know. I mean, if anybody's got any questions, I guess I could answer them, or I don't know what else to say. I just know that it's been a lot.
Janelle, I did get a question that came into me that was directed towards Dylan. And the question was there things that the association, that the Kansas Meat Processing Association has done that you saw that were helpful, or was there ways of working together specifically that you wanted to elaborate on or share upon? And maybe, I know we have Carol with us as well. I don't know if she wants to weigh in on that conversation at all or not.
Well, yeah, she could probably point me in the right direction. I mean, those folks are the best. I mean, I mean, I'm sure every state, they're all great. I mean, our Carroll is amazing. Dave Schaefer, Wayne Joling, Beckman, Clint, I mean, everybody is out to help everybody. All the meat processors that I know, that go to the state convention and everything it's a family. Everybody lends a hand to everybody. Kansas Meat Processors Association has been probably the most influential thing that I've ever been a part of besides the service. Everybody's out to help everybody. Nobody's trying to be better or burn anybody. It is a phenomenal thing, and I am proud to be a part of it for sure.
All right, thank you. Appreciate those comments.
Okay, well, we will next, thank you so much, Dylan, for all that information. But I'm now going to turn it over to Jeremy Schooler, who is our KDA program manager for meat and poultry. I will tell you, Jeremy's camera is not working tonight, but we do have a picture of him that will be popping up, so you guys will be able to see who is giving you information. Jeremy, you can take it away.
All right, thank you, Janelle. Just want to introduce myself. Like you said, I'm Jeremy Schooler. I'm a new KDA Meat and Poultry program manager. I've been with Meat and Poultry since 2005, and I've served as a inspector, lead inspector, and area supervisor. I'm looking forward to this new role and what I can do for the people of the state of Kansas. Just going to kind of go through some facts and figures here that we have kind of compiled on the growth of the industry over the last year and everything else. Just like the licensing growth since March of 2020 has seen a 17.95% increase from 39 to 46 custom facilities, a little over 10% increase from 49 to 54 inspected facilities, 52, little over 52% increase from 283 to 432 wholesalers, brokers, animal food, and public warehouse licenses. The majority of those are wholesalers. Currently, we have 2 compliance officers who are providing the inspection for these facilities. Slaughter counts, combined total number of slaughter counts at state facilities from January 1st to December 31st. From 2018, we had 50,406. 2019, we had 47,732. And 2020, we increased to 62,272. That's 30.5% increase in the slaughters that we've seen in the state facilities alone. So far this year, we've seen market hogs, they went down actually about 850 head. So we about 8% less slaughter on market hogs compared to a year ago or compared to 2019. And there was very little change in the sheep and goats. So obviously, I guess the most dramatic that we've seen is in the beef slaughter. That's kind of what I have at this point. If anybody's got any questions.
Thanks, Jeremy. Does anyone have any questions for him? If so, you can either drop them in the chat or you can unmute yourself and ask. I'm not seeing anyone unmuting, so we're going to have some more poll fun here. So our poll number 3 of the evening is going to be, what is the #1 issue you're currently facing in your business? And I think there's been some of that definitely happening in the chat. So your options are lack of trained help, limited capacity, employee retention, and then other, which once again, as we said, if you can drop that in the chat, that would be great. And I will promise as we get through these polls and stuff, we're going to have some also open dialogue. So be ready to be unmuting and having some conversation. I'm going to give you here about 25 seconds more. As everyone's kind of doing some voting here. Once again, we appreciate you all taking the time tonight to be on the call or the Zoom with us, because we know you're all very busy. So we appreciate all of you sharing your thoughts with us. It looks like, I think I've got about everybody in on the poll now. So let's end it. And it's looking like our options was 50% limited capacity was the first one up. And then at 30% was lack of trained help. And then 10% was employee retention. And I'm looking really quick here to see in chat. It looks like had construction increased costs for adding on to facilities and employees and pricing from large packing plants, inspectors were all things that were noted. Okay, we're going to do one more poll here. And then we will go into our kind of open dialogue, which I know we have more questions for you guys to be unmuting and sharing, and just overall information to be giving you. But poll number 4 here is going to be talking about grading services. So it is, if grading services were available through KDA for a fee, would you be interested? And we have, yes, I'd be interested in grading services, possibly, but I would like more information, or not at this time. So once again, I'll give you guys a little bit of about 30 seconds to answer this poll. And once again, if there's an option we missed, please put it in the chat. And we will be capturing, like, information you're putting in the chat and everything are things that we are able to record and use in our notes moving forward. So please feel free to always be adding things there. And it looks like I have my number here who's kind of been voting. And so at 50% is actually the winner at not at this time. And then 33% is possibly, but I would like more information. And then 17% was yes, I'd be interested in grading services. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Secretary Olson and Jeremy Schooler to review some questions I think that came in beforehand, and then just also talk some other points.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I just want to reiterate, thank you to everyone who's with us tonight. So far, I think the chat tonight has been one of the more active chats of our sectors. And I was told this was not going to be a shy group. So I really appreciate your comments in the chat and look forward to this period. So we did receive, as Janelle indicated, a few questions in advance. So I want to kick those off. And since Jeremy is my willing helper, the first question is kind of geared towards him, and so I'll pose this question, and then at any time, if anyone else would like to weigh in, feel free to come off mute. I'll try to keep my eyes open for anyone off mute, and anyone can, we can try to call on you, or don't hesitate to speak up and get your voice out there as well. So Jeremy, will Kansas get into the interstate co-op program to ship across state lines and stay inspected? Is a main question that I would like to be addressed, says the writer. Also, will there be any more grant money to expand facilities or upgrade equipment?
Right now, with how the state is set up, we are not able to do the CIS interstate shipment, but it kind of depends on what kind of interest there is, and whether or not that is something that we could look to into the future. And The grant money, that's something that I guess that's part of why we're having this discussion tonight, is to see what we can do to try to open up those funds to the plants and to the meat industry of Kansas.
Yep, I would just reiterate the fact that, I mean, there's some open periods for designs of the next round of federal funding that's available. We are looking forward to this dialogue, and your feedback thus far has been great. And as we craft our response to the USDA and what we see as needs in Kansas, and what, and how the federal funds might fit that. I would follow up also that some of the state American Rescue Plan Act funding of the 1.2 billion that's headed towards Kansas. We've certainly tried to carve out a piece of that might come to the meat processing industry. So again, we don't have those specifics. We don't have the details, but we appreciate this input tonight and this opportunity to visit, so that we can make sure that we build programs and weigh in on ideas that will be helpful and beneficial to you guys. I did catch in the chat that there was a piece about needing a lot of extra work to get through on the latest federal grant. We certainly hear that and understand that it is, federal grants are not always the easiest to navigate. So we're happy to help connect you with some technical support if that's a need that we can be of service to. Another question that came in, and this one, sorry, Jeremy, you're kind of on the line here for this one, but are you requiring large processors to have business continuity plans so that they can remain open in spite of the world of events and pandemics? This is just a concern as a small producer, but as a food security and ag industry concern as well, since it is a large part of the Kansas economy.
We don't have any large processors per se in our with the state of Kansas program anyway, so I cannot say what the federal plant or the FSIS is requiring. I can say that we're, as the state of Kansas, we're trying to do everything we can to keep our industry and our plants and business people moving along as well as we can through the pandemic and the economy.
Yeah, and I would just follow up that as a whole, Kansas worked very hard to keep all of our processors going. In Kansas, we had some pretty hairy moments there last spring of 20, but we worked as a state in partnership with our federal partners to do all that we could to ensure that our large processors were able to still process despite the challenges that we were seeing at the time. So generally, I mean, in general, we certainly want to be supportive of the industry, large or small. Whether we inspect the large plants or not, we're certainly here to support the Kansas economy and the Kansas businesses. So anything we can do to help keep Kansas a great place to be in business, and that's our one of the aspects that we go after. So certainly take feedback on that if anyone wants to weigh in on thoughts, or maybe it was your question and I hope I represented it adequately. All right, this next one, this is really geared more towards our processors. So we're curious to know how many has your number of slaughter and processing days changed as a result of these recent changes in the industry? I know we sense it from our inspectors, but I'm curious to hear what you guys have specifically done and how you've reacted with your plants. Feel free to come off mute, to turn your cameras on. You're welcome to weigh in. And again, we're just thinking about the number of processing and slaughter days that you did prior to 2020. And then how have you adjusted? Have you increased your numbers? Or how were you able to accommodate some of this increased demand?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, thanks, Jeremy. Please.
Hey, no problem. I like to talk on these things. So, hey, so I bought this place in 2020 last year, and when I took over, we were already booked out. I want to say almost all the way through 2022. For a lot of the ranchers were booking up all the spots, so we increased production right away just because it's myself and another guy. So that's kind of where we're at. We just kind of try to up our production as much as possible. We talked about adding another slaughter day. We haven't done that yet, but that's still kind of, just in the talk. We talk about it all the time, but I don't know if it's going to happen or not. So, but that's kind of what we did. I don't know what anybody else did. I'm sure they're in the same boat.
Jeremy, where do you operate at for lack of my knowledge?
Peabody Sausage House. I'm sorry. I'm also late to the party. I couldn't get logged in here, so.
Well, I'm glad you were able to join us. Thanks.
Hey, no problem.
Anyone else? I think Bruce came off mute.
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've increased, and we'd love to continue to increase, but where we run into pitfalls is that's expansion of your facilities. You can bring in more cattle all you want, but if you don't have the kill floor or the aging cooler or the freezers or the coolers to store all this stuff, you're kidding yourself. I mean, we've added another day, and we've tried to shuffle some hours around and stuff so we can get more in it. And we're probably like a lot of people, more than anxious to grow, but that's just a big dollar item. I mean, these facilities, they just cost a lot of money, and it costs a lot to operate. And, bankers, they might want to help you out with a piece of it, but if you want to grow, you got to start from the back door to the front door. It just doesn't work otherwise. That, and while we're on it, another thing that I don't know if it'd be K-State or the state, somebody, but some of this, the rendering, the byproduct stuff is that's a big dollar item for all of us out here in the business. And it looks like to me that somebody smarter than myself should be able to take some of those products and turn it, I don't know what's in fertilizer or something, but it looks like we ought to get somebody with some brains on that to help us out, getting rid of those byproducts. Because right now that's a big ticket item for all of us. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Well, I appreciate that. I actually, I just read an article in the Kansas Rural Water Association. They were working with the local meat processor to help dispose of those. And so I hear that loud and clear is an opportunity to help that drive down some of those expenses for you. That's a great suggestion. Carol, I think I've seen you come off mute a couple times. I want to make sure we get to you to.
Well, I don't actually run a processing plant. We did in the past, but the guys that are in our organization, they brought up most of the things that I had heard from the people in our group. A lot of them would like to do more. They are physically unable to, with the hours in the day, to do any more, and to get any help is impossible. I've been there. It's not a desirable job a lot of the times. It's hard work. It's hard physical work. People don't want to do it. I hate to say it, they just don't want to do it. We've talked about maybe some training of some sort. I know AMP has some internship programs. They try to get young people out to work in places like this and, get a feel of it. I don't know if there's some way in Kansas, vocational training of some sort. I don't know if it would catch on, like I said, it's most people, when they think about being a butcher, that's not their life's goal probably. So that's kind of just something I've thrown out there. Bruce brought up the byproducts. That's a big problem for our people. I went to the national convention in Oklahoma City. I visited with composting people and incineration. That's an option, but it's very expensive. And for any plant that's doing a large volume, it would almost not pay. It's just very, very expensive. If there's some of the places can take it to a landfill. Some counties won't allow that. So that's a problem that if they could, if there's some way they could figure that out. I don't have the answer. I guess there's no market for this, or so they say. So there's nobody wants these byproducts, but I know that's a big problem for our people too. Another thing I'll just throw out there, and I don't even know if this is possible in the state. I've had some people call me. I have quite a few calls from people that are wanting to start a plant or they're going to buy one and renovate. I've had people interested in mobile slaughtering. I don't know if that's allowed in Kansas. And I don't know. I mean, that's an option to increase some of the production, but again, there's got to be a place for it to go. I mean, once you slaughter it, it's got to go somewhere. And that's kind of a problem without, the facilities to store it in. So I don't know, just looking at some of the possible answers to the volume of work that comes through, those are not answers. They're just more problems, I guess. But I just thought maybe that was something that, people could think about and maybe come up with. That's it. Thanks
Well,
for having us tonight.
well, all the things that you raised are excellent questions. And one of them that I was thinking about was also, I mean, in the chat, we saw a lot about the labor. Labor is an issue. Is there, do you guys feel like you have good training, adequate training courses and work for your staff, or is it kind of on the go, just in time? And, we've seen some other states who have developed or are developing programs to train. Maybe you could send staff to a 2-day course. I mean, what does training look like, and is that an ongoing need?
Well, we do get help from K-State. They have workshops and they have a seminar every year to help our people, but just the actual physical work part of it, I would guess most of our processors, it's just on the job training, or you learned it from your mom and dad or something like that. That's, I would say, a lot of
Yeah.
Sink or swim.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I do see Rosanna's got her hand up, so I want to make sure we get to her. I don't know if we've got a question or a response. So Rosanna, please feel free to unmute and chime in here.
Okay. Hey, I even figured out how to let down my hand. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I definitely want to chime in on what Bruce and Carol said about the byproducts. I feel like that's a forgotten part of the conversation, definitely, because we know that historically that was a really big driving factor in what closed a lot of our existing small butcher shops that led to this pinch. And, even if that's the one thing where the large packers have an incredible advantage over us in the fact that, they make as much off of their offal or more than what they actually make off of their meat products. And there's just no way that we can, if you'd want to say compete, and that's even the wrong word, to compete with that. I really feel like more so than throwing, money at, brand new facilities, my concern is that if we haven't found a way to make small scale meat processing cash flow and profitable, we're going to end up with some sparkly empty buildings. And I would really like to see some attention given to offal processing, and that can be a wide scope, whether it's, it's beyond just hide processing. You can have pet food processing out of it, collagen processing, even something as simple as what Carol said, composting, but to do composting right can be expensive. I would like to see some attention and potential seed money maybe for those industries, because we definitely have enough plants in the state that's just being a burden on them right now. And back to the labor, nobody's going to deny that one. When we're considering workforce training, I think we need to not forget about the owners, the bosses, and the other end of the equation. A lot of times I look at the fact that if I don't have adequate staff, that's 50% a boss and leadership problem.
That's an excellent point.
That we don't have. Sometimes we're our own worst enemy when we're trying to find and train staff. Sometimes we're we didn't have the proper training to know how to bring them on board, how to be clear in our instructions. So I feel like we need to make sure that we're doing workforce training on both ends of the equation there. And that's probably all that I have to say right now.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate those comments. I'm hearing some trends here and some great points to consider as we look at what we can do as a state to help everyone. So there continues to be chats, conversations. One of the questions one of our KDA members posted, is there interest in partnering with some of our larger plants in the state to dispose of offal? I hear this question, and I also think, do you guys have ideas that you'd like to try that maybe you haven't had the time to, or the efforts to do the research to as extra ways of disposing these? Or is it just kind of this looming problem that no one really has a great solution to at this point? Looks like Zach weighed in on the chat on that. Thank you.
We're just running into the problem where we can't, like Darling takes all of our stuff and then they turned around and they were paying for our hides, and that would pay for them disposing of all of our other barrels. Well, now they don't pay for our hides, and if they do take them, you have to cut them in 12 by 12-inch squares for them to take the hides.
Wow.
So we've had to start dumping our hides in a dumpster, and the landfill takes them. And then it's been a huge hassle to handle that, because now we're paying Darling when they were paying us because we were giving them so many hides, and then they stopped taking hides because I guess leather's not worth anything now. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I see less and less true leather products out there. I'd much rather have my car with leather grain in there instead of the synthetic. And it's certainly taken a toll on that leather market, that's for sure.
I mean, don't get me wrong. This is Bruce from El Dorado. It would be nice to not have that expense, but what even be nicer is to convert that product to some kind of useful finished source. Like I say, I don't know if it's down the existing line or lane of, ideas that we currently have. Maybe it needs to be something different. I don't know what that is, but it's got to be a value someplace, somewhere to somebody. And I mean, I think as I've seen on the chatters, going to another plant or so forth. I don't know about you guys, but I don't think I'd be real apt to want other people's stuff coming into our plant and all of a sudden, hey, now we're responsible for it. No, thank you. Don't want that one. But no, I think there's some ideas out there. I just think we got to get some people, some money going to the right people to start studying this, because it is a huge issue. Yeah, I know plants 20, 30 years ago that they would make their plant payments, or they'd make their labor dollar would pay from the byproducts. And now that's all gone away and you pay them. So.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I'm proud of is that, there's a use for everything, but it has to be, we've got to find the right outlet to help to make those connections. Well, I appreciate this dialogue. We've got a couple other tentative questions here, but before I move there, I want to make sure, is there anything we haven't touched on specifically that you'd like to bring up, or questions that you'd like addressed? I see Carol came off mute again, so feel free, Carol, to.
Well, I didn't mean to.
Oh, that's okay too. There's a question that came into the chat for Dylan. Is there something that the association can kick around and let KDA know on usefulness or options of the byproducts? Excuse me. Is this something the association can kick around and let us know? Sorry, it helps if I read correctly.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess. I mean, we've just, we're not the only plant that's going through that. I think Crable's has somebody that gets their hides, and trying to think of somebody else that they're going through the same thing we are, and we're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So we're kind of back up against the wall and we don't have any place to take them. I've talked to Strutz and I think Zach about it, but we're so far away, it doesn't really help us out to, it doesn't make sense for us to drive our stuff down there to them, and they don't want that hassle either, and I don't blame them. So I don't know. We're just kind of in a rock hard place because now we're having to dump everything in a dumpster with the skid steer at the end of every Thursday, make sure it's full when the trash guys get there and all the over 30 heads and everything else. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but it is what it is. And I don't know a solution. We've talked to people, and I mean, unless I'm missing somebody that knows more than I do, which I'm sure there's quite a few people that do, but I would be all ears for a different solution.
Well, and I think we certainly want to help too with that. I mean, if we need to do some brainstorming, or if there's some, if we can pull in some other industries to engage in some conversations and come up with some ideas, I think we'd be happy to do that. So we'll certainly take this as something that we can keep mulling on. And if you guys have great ideas, if you think of something, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm sorry, I'm struggling to read all the chats and keep up and keep conversation going. So I really do appreciate the engagement tonight. Another question that we kind of kicked around here in our house is, we kind of touched on the biggest need as a processor, but I don't know if anybody wants to speak to that a little bit more. I know Dylan, you mentioned it briefly when you addressed the group. Does anyone want to weigh in, have a little dialogue specifically on that question? Okay, crickets, that's okay. Oh, go ahead. I see Bruce came off again.
I promise I'll quit talking.
No, I like it.
I mentioned it earlier. I mean, as far as, I don't know of anybody out there that would love to expand. But it's just so expensive facility wise to do that. And like I say, you got to look at the whole picture. It's not like I can go buy a manufacturing plant. I can build me a little building to do widgets or whatever. Everything that we do is, you're talking about refrigeration or freezers. And it's just, you've got to almost have the size you're going to be when you build a building. It's just hard to, ask Zach. It's just hard to add on and make everything flow properly and make sure that you're staying within all the requirements to be legal. So, expansion is huge. I don't know of anybody that's not willing or not wanting to expand. I know we'd love to. We booked up in 2022 in minutes. We've got customers that are upset with us because but there's only so much we can do. Our plant will only handle so much product. Not that we'd like to do more. It's just very expensive to make all that happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kelsey?
Yes, Chris.
Kelsey, this is Chris Frederick. I don't know if any of you that are processors are out there are aware of, I'm with the Kansas Department of Commerce, and I am in-state business development for the northwest part of the state. And I'm one of 8 regional representatives for commerce that we work with, primarily manufacturers. And many of you that are in meat processing probably have a particular NICS code that falls into slaughtering, animal slaughtering, which actually is considered a manufacturing NAICS code. And that being said, many of you that are looking into possible expansion activities such as buying new equipment, adding on to your facility to expand your capacity, would be able to possibly qualify for our business incentive programs that's centered around capital investment, also net new job creation and workforce training grants. Now, what I could do is I could drop a link in the chat and you can all see the regions where all of us are located within our state. And you could feel free to reach out to your representative in your region. Let them know that you're looking to do some expansion possibly, and they could go over the incentive programs with you that would provide you some financial incentive through tax credits and tax exemptions through our business incentive programs if you do any expansion.
Thanks for sharing that, Chris. I appreciate it. I know we try to connect individuals with your team as they come through our shop, and I know we've had some success in the past, and I'm sure we could have some success in the future too as we get everyone, all the right pieces connected.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and drop that into the chat here for you all. And if you click on this link, you'll see a map with all of our locations throughout the state. Then feel free to reach out to your representative and you can speak with them about our programs. So if any of you have any plans to expand, I would encourage you to do that.
Thanks, Chris. We'll have this session recorded and we'll post it on our website. And we can, I don't know if we've shared the link in the past, but we can try to share some of this information following the session as well. One other question, there's been talk about automation and new technology in the meat processing industry. As processors, do you see any key steps in the process that you see potential for more automation that might alleviate some of the labor concerns? I mean, maybe it's not, we don't have it yet, but is there pieces of the process that you think could be automated if the right technology existed?
Kelsey,
Yes,
there's tons of options out there for automation. The biggest problem is the cost. I looked into, just out of curiosity, the automation to split a beef carcass. And the machine to do so was over $600,000. So the automation on a small scale for us is just really not realistic. And that's why employee retention and getting employees is so important.
Yeah. What do you, out of curiosity, what do you do to retain or train your employees?
So we try to train them the best we can, but most of the people that we need, there's not a lot of training that we can do other than how to keep their knife sharp and just do their job. And we can't find anybody that wants to stand there and do it.
That's tough. Thanks for sharing. For what it's worth, one of my favorite places to be is in a processing plant. I love the environment. I love this. I love the atmosphere. I know that everybody's there doing hard work. And I've visited a few of these plants, and it's an honor to do so. And I do enjoy it. So that's probably why I've taken over here from Janelle. I just enjoy working with this sector. So this is about it for our questions. There's a request though, if you guys, if you're thinking about expansion, about how many more employees you could use, I'm guessing maybe it's 10, maybe it's only 1, maybe it's 2. I think that to me really matters. Even creating 1 new job in our rural communities is important. So if you want to share where you're at, how many, if you could expand what your staff might increase by, that would be helpful. Kind of give us a sense of feel for that. There is currently a USDA Federal Register that is up, has an open comment period to the end of August regarding the meat processing industry. And it is the USDA essentially asking to weigh in and hear what you need as an owner, as a meat processing plant, maybe as a wholesaler. And as they think about the next grant that they're going to develop, we certainly wanted to capture this information in hopes as we develop our own response to submit to that. We can share, if you're interested in that, I'm happy to share that you can do it online. You can submit your comments online. It's a simple form. And it's an open form. You can write what you want. Certainly feel free to share that information, your thoughts with the federal USDA. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Janelle. She can wrap us up.
Thanks, Kelsey. And thank you everyone for coming off mute, for all of your chat options tonight. We really appreciate all of the great information sharing. It really helps us with being able to also pass along information and understand kind of what's happening in the industry. So a recording, as Kelsey said, of this will be available. So we'll follow up via email probably next week with that recording. So you all have it in email. We do have, as Kelsey had noted at the very beginning, we still have our actual Ag Summit that will be happening virtually on August 26th. So I think probably one of my coworkers will pop in a link there for you to be able to sign up for that virtual session. And it will be covering a couple of different topics. The agenda will be being published in the next, probably sometime mid next week. So you can check that out and get signed up for that. And then we're also, again, doing our second year of the Kansas Department of Agriculture's Kansas Ag Heroes. So we encourage you to submit a nomination for any individual, family, or business in Kansas agriculture that you feel provided a notable contribution to the industry or their community in this last year. The nomination period is just open until tomorrow, August 13th, end of day. So if you want to get that application in, we'd appreciate it. Or if you need just a little more time since you're just learning about tonight, also shoot us an email and we can figure out something for you. But we really appreciate you spending the last hour with us, and we'll be capturing all this information and be emailing you guys. So have a good evening. We will hope the heat index goes down at least for a little bit, but we do know it's Kansas in August time period, so it's always going to be hot. So thanks everyone, and we will talk to you later. Good night.